Hi, I'm Mark Spenny, President and CEO of SAFQ. One of the best ways to avoid being a victim of a scam or identity theft is to learn about different types of scams, what some of the danger signs are, and some of the things that many scams and crooks have in common. As part of SAFQ's continued focus on financial education, we recently started hosting periodic seminars to help make members and our communities aware of the improving ways con artists are trying to defraud people. Our hope is that by watching these sessions, members of all ages, everywhere, will be more aware of what to watch out for and better equipped to protect yourself from becoming a victim of a scam. Thanks for taking a few minutes to watch. We hope you find them helpful.
Hello, my name is Officer Amy Dotson. I am a police officer with the city of Peoria. I've been an officer for about 15 years now. But I would like to give you guys some examples of cases we've investigated in the city of Peoria to kind of make it all mesh together for you. The first three examples I have are romance scam examples. And I don't tell these stories to shame anyone that they happen to. I just want you to understand how easily they can happen, and understand that if it is happening to you currently, or you think it might be, or it has in the past, please don't be embarrassed or ashamed to come forward, confide in a loved one, talk to your bank, go to your local police department, because please understand this. People that have been scammed are just normal, everyday, law-abiding, good people, right? But scammers, on the other hand, they are professional criminals that have become experts in their trade craft. So please don't ever be embarrassed if you have been victimized by them. So the first example that I have of the romance scam, the three examples I'm going to illustrate to you are in person, online, and over the phone. All three examples have actually happened here in the Peoria area. Again, I talk to you about these things just to educate you, not to shame anyone. So this example is a man meets a woman just going out and about his normal daily life. They become friends. They decide that they want to start seeing more of each other. They start talking on a regular basis. It's not necessarily romantic. They're just friends. He was looking for a companion, and she must have been as well, or so he thought. So they become friends. Days turn into weeks. Weeks turn into months. Well, eventually, she confided into him that she was broke. Now, what you don't know about this situation is the man is a very wealthy individual. She is not. Again, you're going to learn that she is the professional in this situation, professional scammer. So she figures out that he has money. So months into their friendship, she decides to tell him, you know, how she's down on her luck. She's trying to put herself through school. She's got kids. She's having trouble putting food on the table. You know, she can't provide for her children's birthdays, really tugging at the man's heartstrings. Because again, most of us want to do good and we want to help people. It's human nature. So eventually, he began to care for her, probably a little more than what she cared for him, because again, she was using him. He eventually bought her a home. I mean, a whole entire home. Not necessarily a fancy home, but a home that she could call her own. He bought this for her. Well, you know what happened then. She told all of her friends. She couldn't believe it. You know, again, you know, birds of a feather sometimes. Her friends were also in the line of scamming people. So she started telling her friends, you know, how she took this guy. She got a house from him. She was getting money from him. He was a really nice guy, because he is a really nice guy. And so before long, after she was somewhat set, she started talking about how she had friends that could really use some help. And she was really sad for them. You know, she was turning her life around thanks to him. Things were looking up. She could provide for her children, birthdays, food. She had a place to live. And she felt bad that some of her friends were in the same predicament that she was formerly. So you've probably already guessed it. He also helped some of her friends. Again, people talk, word got around. So what you probably don't know next is what happened then is the crowd that these ladies maintained, their social circle, they were also scammers. They were bad people that preyed on good people. So eventually, he started getting threatening text messages, basically demanding money for no reason from unknown individuals. So he got scared. He started talking to his friend now that he'd had for several months, confiding in her that he was scared. He started getting pictures of his house sent to him saying, "We're watching you. We can see you. It's time to pay up. Do you value your family's safety?" That type of thing. Now, then he couldn't understand where someone was getting his phone number. Well, one of the girls that he was friends with, the original girl, I should say, finally disclosed to him that she had her phone stolen and that some real bad people got a hold of her phone. And they got in it, and she knew who they were, but they're real bad people, and you don't want to mess with them. So just do what they say so they can be out of our lives forever. So, of course, he got scared. He didn't know how he could pay them. He didn't want to meet them. They claimed they were watching his house, watching his family, watching him. Again, I told you they sent him a picture of his home. But let's think about how this is happening. Everything we have is basically public record, where you live, past phone numbers, relatives and things. You can find a lot out about someone by Googling them. And if you don't think that's true, try it. Google your own name, and you may be surprised what comes up about you as far as personal information. I don't mean banking information. Please don't misconstrue this. I'm talking about maybe past places you've lived, or even where you currently live based on real estate records, tax records, etc. So what these scammers did was they obviously knew his name through the original woman he was involved with as his friend. They Googled him, and through Google Earth, or just a Google search, they Googled his address, took a screenshot of it, and sent it to him. They were never standing in front of his home. It was a scare tactic, but it worked, because who wouldn't that alarm? So they began to send him invoices for services rendered, which again, they didn't do anything for this man, but he started paying them through PayPal. So when you're like, well, how did he get them this money? And, wouldn't he call the police and this and that? No, because they were unknown to him. They were just on the other end of a phone. He never actually saw them. So in his mind, he, conjured up this horrible image of these criminals that were taking advantage of him. So they went on to PayPal. He had a PayPal account. They printed up they created bogus invoices, and they would email them to him, and then he could pay them directly from PayPal. Now, if you have PayPal, you understand how very easy that can be done. You get a PayPal invoice for something that's legitimate. Sometimes it's just one click and the item is paid for right out of your bank account. It's very simple. Other times, just facial recognition on your phone. Depends on what kind of technology you have. Or maybe you just enter your password into your PayPal account. But nonetheless, you can pay someone within seconds of getting the invoice. And so he continued doing this out of fear for his own safety and that of his family. Eventually, some discrepancies in his account were noted. His financial institution, SEFQ being one of them, caught some very unusual transactions. I told you, he was well off and definitely had means to spend large amounts of money, but eventually it was caught. Police were notified. But I have to tell you, before it was all said and done, he was out over $500,000. Now, again, we all may say, I would never do that, but never say never. People can be very manipulative. And like I told you, I explained to you, these are professional scammers, and they are excellent at their trade craft. The second story is, I will title the story, A Lonely Wife. So here's her situation. Her husband had been living in a nursing home for several years, and she was home alone. Kids were grown, they were gone. So she created a Facebook account to keep up with family and friends across the country, grandkids, kids, old high school friends, etc. Because a lot of us use social media as a way of staying connected and sharing things with the people we care about, which is what she did. Now, if you have Facebook, you know how easily you can get friend requests. So if I'm friends with, John over here and John is friends with Holly over here, sometimes mutual friends overlap, and sometimes you'll get friend requests that you're like, I don't think I know them, but maybe I do, and you accept their request. It can happen very easily, especially once you look at their Facebook account and you see that maybe they're local. You're a little more apt to accept them as a request, thinking maybe you know them, but you just can't remember. So this lady, she accepted a friend request onto Facebook. As you might know, this man who sent her the Facebook request to be friends quickly began chatting with her. First he would comment on her photos. He would say nice things to her. Now, again, she lived alone, somewhat lonely, and enjoyed the conversation online. And then the comments increased to a point where they became, friends on Facebook, so to speak. So they began direct messaging each other, which is just a way you can have a private conversation on Facebook. So again, the days turned into weeks, the weeks turned into months. Eventually, he professed to her that he was starting to have feelings for her. They had talked for so long. And you can see how that would happen, right? We all want to fall in love with someone who's our friend first. Hollywood makes you believe it's, instant attraction at first sight, but that's not always real life. If it is, that's awesome. But for most of us, we're friends first. And so this is what this man played on. He became her friend and he gained her trust. So as I told you, they talked daily now. So one day she asked him, what his plans were, what he had going on. And he said, I am going to my grandson's birthday party in a couple of days, and I can't wait. I'm going to buy him a laptop. And she said, oh my, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. He can use that for school. He can use that at home. It'd be wonderful to have a laptop. Well, wouldn't you know it? Days go by. He went to the party. She asked him, she had never met him in person yet. They were still strictly online friends, turning into more. She asked him how the party went. And he said, well, it went really well. And she said, well, did your grandson love the laptop? He said, well, I hate to admit this. I'm actually very embarrassed, but I was a little short on money this month, $100 to be exact. And I couldn't buy him the laptop yet. I'm going to have to wait till next month before I can give it as a belated birthday present. But I told him I'm getting that and he can't wait to get it. He's very excited. And she said, oh, no, I will give you the $100. Please buy your grandson a laptop. Just take the money. It's not even a gift. Just let me do this for you. We can understand that, right? We want to be generous. We want to help people. We want to make a child's day. Well, she did. Then pretty soon he tells her, you're never going to believe this, but I found work. It's a great job, a lot of money. We can do lots of things together. But the only downside is I'm being transferred overseas for a short time. So we can keep talking on Facebook. We can text, obviously talk for free on Facebook with Wi-Fi. We'll stay in touch. We'll talk every day. You mean the world to me. I love you. And I want to continue this when we get back. And she says, okay. So he goes overseas to this job that he procured. Well, wouldn't you know, when he gets there, there was no work. He got laid off on the spot. The job wasn't really what he thought it was going to be, and they laid him off. So now he's in a foreign country. He has no money. He can't eat. He has nowhere to stay. Again, they have been talking for months and months. He has gained her trust. And now what does she do? She opens a credit card in his name and in her name. So it's her account. She puts his name on it. She makes sure that he gets it because she wants to make sure he has food and shelter. So for that month before things caught up, he lived very well on her credit card with his name on it. He then starts to send her packages from overseas, and he asks her to FedEx them to addresses that he was going to be sending her in later messages. And she said, okay. He was just shipping stuff home. And he said, but keep your FedEx receipts so I can reimburse you when I get home. And she said, okay. Long story short, he was involved in some sort of stolen goods ring overseas, stealing laptops. Kind of ironic, right? Stealing laptops, and he was having her ship them all over the United States. So in reality, she's somewhat of an accessory to his little scam here, right? Eventually, it gets caught, but in 8 months' time, this poor woman was out $185,000. If you think that's bad, wait for the rest. She had to file bankruptcy. She lost her home, very nice home, lost it, gone. And then she had to relocate her husband to a public aid bed in a nursing home. She could no longer pay for his care. That's a pretty sad story. All right, I talked to you about the in-person scam, romance scam. Talked to you about the online romance scam. And now here's going to be the telephone romance scam. So this lady lives alone. She's older. She's lonely. Her kids are grown. Her grandkids are grown. She's home. She gets a phone call one day, and it was something that looked like an investment firm to her. So it wasn't Morgan Stanley, but it had some sort of ring like that, and the person's name was John. And turns out she did have investments with Morgan Stanley. Again, it wasn't Morgan Stanley on the phone, but for some reason, the way she read it, that's what it looked like to her. So she answered the phone, and it was a man named John. And he said, hello, and he had her name. He said, congratulations. I have called to tell you that you won big. You won $3 million, I believe was the amount, and a convertible BMW. Congratulations. And she said, oh, no. There must be a mistake. I haven't been anywhere. I did not enter any drawings. He had done some homework, some little Google searches. He found where she had been somewhere, and he referenced that, and he told her that she was the grand prize winner from that event. And so she thought, little bells were going off in her head, like, I don't know. And he said, I promise you, and he said her name, you won. Congratulations. This is not a scam. There's nothing I want from you. I just wanted to call and let you know that you won this, and we'll be in touch. I just want you to think about what you're going to do with this money when you get it and that fancy new car. But other than that, you just have a glorious day. And he hung up, and she thought, well, maybe it's real. He didn't want anything. He didn't ask for money. She had been warned about scams before. He didn't ask for financial information. He didn't ask for money. He didn't ask for anything other than telling her, think about how you're going to enjoy your winnings. So she began to believe it. A couple of days later, he called her back. He said, hey, this is John again, just calling to check on you. Have you had a chance to think about what you're going to do with your winnings when you get them? And she said, well, honestly, I haven't. I'm still in disbelief. And he said, honey, this is for real. You need to start thinking about this. This is a lot of money. And she said, okay. And they hung up. He called again, and there's going to be a pattern here. You see this. He gained her trust. just like in the first case, just like in the second case, just like in this case. He was persistent because he is a professional criminal. It's scamming unassuming people. So he was persistent. He continued calling her, day after day, just to check in. He quickly realized she was lonely. She began to think of him as a friend. She began to trust him. She began to talk to him about her family. She began to tell him, what she thought she might do with the money. She was going to share it with her children, who would then in turn share it with the grandchildren. It was going to be fabulous. So this goes on for probably a month, right? He'd never asked her for money. It was good to go. It had to be true. So he gives her a call one day after about a month, and he says, hey, I'm processing your winnings check right now. But as you know, anytime you win a large amount of money, you have to pay taxes. And we know this, right? A lot of us are adults here. A lot of us have probably been to various casinos. We know there's a certain dollar amount that you have to pay taxes on after you win, just like the lottery. So she thought, well, I probably do owe taxes. He said, but don't worry, honey. I am not going to ask you for money out of your bank account or a check. I'm just going to take the taxes out of the check I'm giving you. So don't worry about it. You're not out any money. And she's like, great. All right, then. So he calls back a couple of days later. He goes up, you know what? I can't do that because the board that oversees this winning won't allow that. You actually have to pay the taxes. And, for publicity purposes, we have to give you, the full Monty check, the $3 million check. It can't be less. You won the $3 million. We can't give you less. So, you're going to have to pay the taxes, but keep in mind, you're getting $3 million back. And she was like, oh, okay. All right. What do I owe? So he told her, and he said, I'll give you the final amount tomorrow when I call. So he calls the next day, and he says, you know what? I miscalculated. This is actually going to be the amount. Of course, it was higher. And he said, but you know what? You're a really nice lady, and I don't want to see anyone take advantage of you or you be scammed or stolen from. So rather than sending me a check, it was going to Jamaica, New York, if I'm not mistaken. Rather than you sending me a check, because people can hold up envelopes and see through the light, and they can see a check in them, and they can forge names, and they can cash it. I don't want that to happen to you. So what I think you should do in this case, keep in mind, he's a trusted friend at this point. I want you to just send cash in the mail, but don't worry, not in an envelope, because they can see cash too. I want you to get an old magazine that you don't care about and just stuff it between the pages of a magazine, and then mail the magazines to me in an envelope, because nobody's going to steal a magazine. So she did it. He gets the first installment, and I'll call it installment because that's what it ended up being, and tells her, hey, I got the money and that's great, but it's going to be a little bit more. I miscalculated. I didn't include the BMW that you want as well. It's going to be this amount now. So she did this a few times because the amount was never, ever, ever correct. So she kept sending money in the pages of a magazine in the mail. So for whatever reason, she's a smart lady. She decided something just doesn't seem right, but he's a good guy. So it's got to be right, but I'm going to tell somebody about it. So she ended up calling the police, Peoria police, and they show up to her house. And the first thing she tells the officer is, this is not a scam, but I just want you to know what's going on, because I just want you to know what's going on. And so the officer said, okay. Well, as you've already guessed, just a couple minutes into the conversation, the officer said, ma'am, this is a scam. And she said, no, it's not a scam. This is John. I have his phone number. I'm able to call him too. It's on my caller ID. He's a great guy. She told little facts about him. We're friends. I've been talking to him for a month. It's not a scam. I just kind of want you to know what I'm doing in case something, goes wrong with mailing it and things like that. And he said, ma'am, please, this is a scam. And she said, no, it's not. He said, I'm going to take a report. But in the meantime, is there somebody close in your family that you confide in, or a friend that we can have come over here and talk to us at the same time? And she said, well, yeah. He said, okay, I'm going to go out to my car and I'm going to sit in front of your house and I'm going to start typing my report, but let me know when your loved one gets here and we'll kind of, spread things out on the table and go through this. And she said, all right. While the officer was there, her phone rang and it was John calling again to do their daily phone call. So the officer said, let me talk. So he picks up the phone, identifies himself, hang up. John hung up. John didn't want to talk to the officer. So the officer goes outside, starts typing his report to document what was happening to her. She, in turn, goes back inside to call John up on the phone to apologize for shocking him with the police, to let him know, I didn't call the police on you. They're just here. But they think this is a scam. They don't understand that I've won $3 million in this BMW. I hope it's coming soon because I'm not going to be able to send you anything else because my daughter's on her way over here. They're all going to think it's a scam. So I need you to send this check to me right away. And I need this car to arrive because I need to prove to them this is not a scam, John. And he said, hey, I understand. It probably looks that way, with different stories we've all heard across the country, but it's not a scam. But unfortunately, there is still a little amount of money owed. But I'm going to need it before I can release the car for you to take delivery of it and release the check. And she said, well, I'm not going to be able to get to the bank to get more cash because, my daughter is obviously going to alert the bank because she's going to think it's a scam. And he said, honey, that's okay. Do you have a checkbook? And she said, yes. He goes, honey, all you need to do, take the final amount, is just read me that string of numbers across the bottom of the check. And she did. So what did she do? She unknowingly gave him access to her entire checking account, right? When this story was all said and done, she was out $150,000. Now, I don't want to shame anyone in any of these stories. I just want to make it so clear that they all have one thing in common. They're all approached by strangers. We need to realize that. Somebody calls us up. Somebody friend requests us online. Somebody meets us out in public. They are still strangers, ladies and gentlemen. We do not know them. We don't know who's behind a phone call. We don't know who's at the other end of a computer. And really, in real life, it takes a long time before you really, really know someone. We need to stop trusting everyone, especially when it comes to our personal and financial information. The next topic I want to give you an example of is fraudulent deposits. That's shockingly common. So what a fraudulent deposit is when someone asks you to cash a seemingly legitimate check for them because they don't have a bank account or they don't have an account at that bank, etc. So would you just go in and cash this for me? And then, you can keep $10 of it yourself. I just need somebody to cash it for me so I can get the cash. That's what a fraudulent deposit is. But here's the thing. Once you make that fraudulent deposit and the bank gives you the money, once it's determined it was fraudulent, you are out the money. So if you cash a check in any amount, it's going to come out of your account. You are responsible for it. So here's an example of that. A man and woman are selling a lift chair, type of recliner that has a remote control lift to aid in sitting down easily and getting up easily. So they decide that they don't need it anymore and it's in great condition. It's like new, so they're going to sell it. So they go to Facebook Marketplace to sell it, which a lot of people use Facebook Marketplace. Nothing in the world wrong with it. They had a selling amount of $400, which was a good deal to them. Immediately they had an offer, full priced offer. Yes, we'll buy that. Just let us know. We'll send you the check because we don't want you to sell it, but we'll come by in about a week to pick it up. We just can't pick it up now, but don't sell it. We'll send you the money in good faith. So the husband and wife said, hey, that's great. $400. So a few days go by, they get a check in the mail and it says $5,000. Now the chair was being offered for $400. They get a check made out to them for $5,000. So they immediately called up the buyer and said, hey, whoa. This is way too much. It was $400. He said, oh my goodness, what did I do? And so they told him, and he said, you know what? I've been very busy. I've traveled lately. I told you I couldn't get there to get the chair right away. I'm actually having somebody pick it up for me. I did buy something for $5,000 this week, but I mixed up who I was sending the checks to. So that $5,000 check was supposed to go to someone else for something else. And your $400 check must have gone to them because absent-minded, right? Just so busy. And he said, but you know what? It's fine though. Just go ahead and cash the $5,000 check. Keep the $400 for the chair. Take another 100 just for your trouble because I'm so embarrassed that this happened. So take $500. You make another $100 on the chair, and then somebody's going to come pick up the chair for me because I'm out of town. Just go ahead and give them the rest of the money. So basically $4,500 if you're tracking my easy math here. So they were like, okay. The husband's like, I don't know about this. And the wife is like, we made $100 more than what we thought. What's the problem with this? So this was a really, really lucky case because the husband suggested to the wife, let's go talk to the bank about it before we do anything. Let's not cash the check. Let's just go run it by a banker because this doesn't make sense to me. So he gets an A+ for the day. Took it to the bank, and they basically told the couple, we're so glad that you brought this to our attention, that you asked us first, because this would have been a fraudulent deposit. You would have deposited it, and you would have been out $5,000 personally. So a $400 chair they were selling could have cost them $5,000. So bottom line here is be very, very, very careful when someone is asking you for personal information, when they're asking you for financial information. Again, this was online, whether it be online, in person, on the phone. Now, there's something that I like to remind myself of is, we are tethered to our cell phones. Most of us have a cell phone and a smartphone at that. It's a computer in our pocket. We can do whatever we want. But as adults, we think just because the phone rings, we have to answer it. So in essence, we're putting ourselves on call 24/7. What I'm trying to say is when that phone rings, look at the caller. We have to learn to screen our calls. If you don't recognize the number, don't answer it. Let it go to voicemail. Then you listen to it later and you decide if you want to call that person back. If someone needs you, they will continue calling you. But an unknown number, don't answer it. Wait to see who it's from. Listen to the voicemail later. Your financial institutions, your investment firms, if they need to get a hold of you, they'll leave a message. But when they call you, if they ask you to verify your account information, no. Stranger danger, right? We don't know who was on the end of that phone. There is technology out there. It's called spoofing, and it's very complicated. But what it is basically is, I am Amy, and let's pretend Linda is over here and Barb is over here. So I can use a computer program as Amy to make it look like on your phone that Barb is calling Linda, but it's really me. So Linda over here gets a call from Barb, and it has Barb's phone number and name on it, but it's really Amy. That's very complicated, and I don't understand how it works, but scammers use it. So how is that important to you? What if you get a phone call from SEFQ? What if you get a phone call from the Peoria Police Department, Peoria County Sheriff's Office? What if you get a call from an unknown number, but in a town next door to yours, right? Because we see that too. That doesn't mean you need to answer that phone. Screen it. If you're not expecting a phone call from your bank, screen it. You can call the bank later. You know their number. You've got it saved on your refrigerator, in your address book, in your phone. You can look it up. You've got the number you can call back. You don't need to answer that right away, unless, of course, you're waiting for a call from the bank. Screen your calls. Again, with the spoofing, we've seen it happen, come up as Peoria County Sheriff's Office, Peoria Police Department telling people they have a warrant for their arrest. No. You don't. We don't call you until you have a warrant. We would knock on your door and say, turn around, put your hands behind your back. I'm not going to call you and tell you those things. So please be very wary of answering the phone. I don't want you to be scared. I want you to go out and enjoy life, but just maybe with your eyes a little wider open. This is not stuff that we expect you to know on your own. It's stuff that we intend to teach you. And SEFCU has done a great job of reaching out and asking us to share this with you. And you are obviously interested because you're here. We just don't want you to fall victim to things that we see happening all too frequently. So if you have any questions, if you think you could be in a scam right now or have been a victim of a scam, please don't be embarrassed. Please don't be ashamed. Feel free to reach out to Peoria Police Department. Any jurisdiction you're in, reach out to the police department. Reach out to your personal banker, a teller at your bank, your financial institution, a loved one. But the first step is telling someone. Because sometimes that other person you tell might say, wait a minute, I don't know about this. This doesn't seem right. If you have any questions about anything going forward, please do not hesitate to reach out to your local PD. We would be happy to talk to you. Thank you and have a wonderful day.